Welcome to the Champions of Change podcast, where we celebrate the inspiring stories of Black male educators who are transforming schools and empowering the next generation. Each episode highlights their journeys, challenges, and triumphs as they break barriers, uplift communities, and redefine what it means to lead in education. Tune in to be inspired, informed, and motivated by the powerful voices of those making a positive impact where it matters most, in our classrooms and in our schools. And now your host, Dr. Sharon H. Porter. Welcome to Champions of Change podcast. I am your host, Dr. Sharon H. Porter, visionary of the book collaboration Champions of Change, Black Male Educators Creating Positive Impact in Schools. I am thrilled to bring you a phenomenal educator for this episode, Dr. Bertrand Tchoumi. Dr. Tchoumi serves as a lecturer in the Department of Education at the University of the People, while concurrently holding the position of principal at the French American Charter School, a French immersion institution located in New York. Additionally, he is a co-founder of the Bilingual Global Citizens Public Charter School, which is a K-8 dual language immersion institution recently approved by the Board of Education of Baltimore County, Maryland, slated to start operations in the fall of 2025. Dr. Tchoumi is also one of the contributing authors of the book collaboration Champions of Change, Black Male Educators Creating a Positive Impact in Schools. Dr. Tchoumi, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. I think that I really want to recognize and acknowledge all the leaders and educators who are working hard every day to make sure that they are bringing significant change in the life of our students.
Absolutely. And I'm truly excited to dive in today's conversation with you because really your work is so impactful, your background, you're truly shaping our future. So I'm excited to get started.
Oh, yes, of course, yes. I'm excited too.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I did not say in your bio is that you actually were a journalist. So can you tell me what inspired you to transition from journalism in Cameroon to becoming an
Yes.
educational leader right here in the U.S.?
Yeah, hopefully we don't have enough time because that's an entire book here. But I think that when I came here after the fellowship program that brought me in the U.S. As a journalist, I had to make a decision. I knew that I have French as my language. I knew that I have degrees in French, and also I knew that I was a journalist. But I have to look the environment, analyze the environment, and make a decision: where can I be impactful? And so I decided to become a French teacher. And that was the beginning. And then from there, it's now a story. I became a French teacher in high school for a couple of years. And then, again, as I said, working with my colleagues, working with other French African teachers and teachers in general, we noticed that there were a lack of school administrators. And I decided to make the move. I learned and discovered program that could allow me to build my leadership skills. And I found one through the New Leaders program. I became a new leader, and that's how I moved into becoming an assistant principal, and then co-founder of Bilingual Global Citizen Public Charter School.
Wow.
So that's in a nutshell the story of my life from journalism to leaders.
I absolutely love it. Absolutely. How fascinating is that? Wow. So how has your background in African literature and journalism influenced your approach to educational leadership?
I would say a lot because as a journalist, I was on the critical side of it. So I was a little bit that kind of journalist who will look into the society critically. In terms of what was being done and how we could improve people's well-being. And that's one of the reasons why I was selected to be here in the World Press Institute Fellowship, because of that perspective that I brought into journalism. And also, as an African, as a student of African literature, I was also I fell in love basically with all kind of thought-provoking literature because I believe that as a as a human being, as a journalist, as a student, it's very important to approach the society with a critical mind because not just because we want to criticize, but because we want to make sure that we are questioning what is being done in order to improve on it. So and then moving forward as a teacher or a school leader, it's very important for me also to see how I can improve student learning. And it takes many paths here. It's not just about criticizing the school system. It's just about bringing some ideas that will help students see themselves as relevant to the society. So bringing ideas that will grow the student mindset to be a positive contributor to the society. And it could look like, for instance, in the immersion program, making sure that the material that we use in the classroom, the instructional approach that we use in the classroom is not just Eurocentric, but also connected to the reality and the culture of students that we have in front of us. So that's where the critical aspect comes into play. And that's what I've been doing. And that's really my commitment going forward to make sure that there is that congruency between whatever we are teaching in the classroom and the reality of the student that we have in front of us.
That work is so important.
Mm.
So thank you for that. Now, why do you believe it's so crucial to have more Black male educators in leadership positions specifically?
Oh, but this is definitely, definitely very, very important. Not just because I am one of them, but I would say it, I'm going to be honest here, that I learned, I understand that important later in my life. When I came here in the US, even when I started teaching, I did not really understand why it was important. No, like you understand as an immigrant, you come here, you just want to work, make money, make a living, that's what you want to do. But as I grew into the system, even going to school, because I did a master's in educational leadership, as you can see, I did a doctorate in urban education leadership, and that's really where I developed my understanding of the system. And I really understood that it is important for the student to see people who look like them. It's important for students to have teachers who look like them, to have administrators who look like them. Not just because of that, as I would say, that cultural or that racial alignment, but also because it's important for people who can understand how other people think. Okay, who can understand where they're coming from, who can understand their background, because that synchrony between the students and the leadership is so important that it can help students see themselves in a different way and also start dreaming about their future. And that is so important because the more male that we have in leadership, you know, because we also consider that, as a male, having that position of leadership, we say traditionally as the head of the family, yes, but also not just for that reason, but also it's important that the male, because there are not many, I would say, from my experience, I've seen less male, in that position of leadership as I was going into the system. So we have to make sure that there's a diversity in representation of leadership for them, so that you don't only think that it's only certain category of people or certain gender who can have access to leadership. Because what we see impact how we dream, impact how we think, and impact how we portray ourselves and project ourselves into the future.
Wow, I really love that. And it really speaks to representation. It matters.
Yeah.
Period. It matters. And that's exactly what you spoke to. Now, what inspired you to champion bilingual education and how does it empower students as global citizens?
Oh yeah, this is yes. I When I started as an educator, I was a French teacher, and when I became a school leader, I had the opportunity to be assistant principal in a multilingual language immersion school where we had 5 languages. And from there, I'm very curious. So I'm constantly studying, reading, looking how thing works. I want to understand how things works. And so I came to love it. I came to love it, and I decided to make it, one of an area where I'm going to advocate for more bilingual education. I'm going to advocate to be part of the people who are really making what we call superpowers, basically, because bilinguals are superpowers, basically, having that ability not only to understand other people's language, to speak another language, but to understand other people's culture. And that is so powerful because the language is I would say the tool that we use to enter into other people's culture, because you can read, you can speak, you can interact. So the moment you understand that language is that key that opens the door to other people's culture, you understand that you have a tool that is so powerful that can change the world. And then that can break all the differences that we have. And that's why I decided to be part of this big, global goal to create bilingual schools. And we are just at the beginning.
It really is a superpower. I love that. And I try to, the two languages mostly spoken in my school, of course, is Spanish and English. And I
Yes,
try to tell my multilingual speakers that you have something that is special.
exactly.
And so, and I'm in elementary, so I really try to press upon those students, those bilingual students, because oftentimes they're helping their parents understand the English,
Exactly.
and really try to tell them to hone in on that because it truly is a superpower. So thank you for that. Now, how do you incorporate cultural identity and Afrocentric perspectives into the curriculum at the French American Charter School?
So I have a 6,000 word article that I just wrote about that. I'm just going to send it to you.
I love it.
So, yes, I just it's going to be published in a couple of days on the francophone identity in a bilingual school, and I'm writing that from an Afrocentric perspective, because I strongly believe that when it comes to French specifically, because of the importance of African countries, because that's where the majority of French speakers are in Africa, and Africa is becoming a very influential region of the world in terms of the resources that they have. So I believe that it's important to teach French from an Afrocentric perspective, and this is something that I'm really working to make it happen. I have by encouraging teachers. Number one, the first thing to do is to make what we call the appropriation of the language. So, because most of the time when we're talking about bilingual education or language education in general, it's about acquisition and speaking the language. It's not just speaking the language, because the language carries culture, the language carries identity, the language carries heritage. So that's why it's very important to appropriate the language. What does that mean? It means that even though most of the material we use in the immersion classroom are coming mostly from the countries where the language is primarily spoken. For instance, France for French, maybe China for China Mandarin or Chinese immersion, or it can be Russian for Russian or any other countries. But I believe that we have to have the ability to take those content and appropriate it. It means that, for instance, when we are learning about uh, a topic, for instance, we have to make sure that we use words or cultural reference that are related to the environment we are in. Let's say if you're in America, for instance, in my case, what I do with teachers is that we have a textbook, we have a picture, and we're talking about that picture in the classroom. And then the sound, for instance, is a sound. Let's say take a sound. So instead of just staying with the sound that is provided in the book, you can also find additional words that's connected to that sound, to that phonics that are in the culture of the student, for instance. So when you do that, you bring those words in that so in that course and that lesson, and then you are keeping the same standard, you are keeping the same lesson, but you are adding the student value into the lesson. So that's what I call appropriation, for instance. Or when you are doing activity, you can create activities that where students have the possibility to showcase their identity, to showcase their heritage, to showcase what they know. So they have to, in another word, they have to take what they are learning and transform it into their own reality. So the other thing that we can do, and that we can do when we are in a language, is to do what we call, and I'm doing it also a lot now, is what we call translation. For instance, during this month of Black History Month, we don't always find all the readings about Martin Luther King, for instance, in French. There are some, you don't find the same for all the other great African heroes that we know. So what we do is that what I think that we do is we translate those material into the language and create lessons so that teachers can use them to teach the student, because that's the period, that's the moment of the year that they have to and then that they have to learn about the history, and then you continue that all along the year. We continue to do translations so that we can adapt those material to the reality of the classroom. So those are some of the ways that we do the adaptations to make sure that there is that relevance in the content for students in the classroom. Another way that we could do that, and I've done it a lot when in New York, is to bring in uh, artists who can represent the culture. So through my interaction on in LinkedIn, Facebook, so I came across artists, and each time I want to visit New York, I said, come to my school. So I have brought a lot of African artists to New York in the school. They have presented to my students. They have done a lot of activities. So that's how you create that because I also make sure that there is that cultural relevance.
Yes.
Because it's important for them to see people like them who are writing, who are relevant, who have some international clout, so that they can believe that they can, because you want them, again, you want them to dream.
Absolutely.
You want them to think beyond their immediate environment. And I also have like some Burkinabe drummers and dancers who came last month. They're coming again next week when we return to teach how to drum and dance, things like that. So those are the things that I do to make sure that there is some cultural relevance, because the curriculum itself is not enough
Right.
to fill that gap.
I love
And
it.
that's, yeah. So, and among other things, I can
Excellent.
say I also wrote a book myself, Regard Sans Complex.
Okay.
Uniquely You, translated in English as Uniquely You.
Wow.
So, which is celebrating, it's an affirmation, a celebration of the African child. So that's what I'm trying to do in order to make sure that I'm pushing this kind of cultural relevant
Wow.
material into the classroom. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Now, you are an edupreneur. And so, as the founder of Landmark Knowledge Solutions, LLC, and also co founder of the Bilingual Global Citizens Public Charter School, what challenges have you faced in educational entrepreneurship?
Oh my God. There are a lot, especially for somebody like me, who is new in that area, because there's a difference between being a school administrator and becoming an entrepreneur, because it requires other mindset, requiring working with people from diverse background, and with whom you have no initial relationship. So you have to make sure that you are creating a common goal and work together for the same vision. So, and the first thing is to find those good partners. Who are those great partners? That how do you identify? Where do you find them? Because it's not just, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to call my friend. Let's come. No, because you want people who are going to bring something to the table. So you want some people who are going to bring you added value. So how do you identify them? How do you find it? And then how do you keep them active? Because you always have that vision. It's always not because it's not yours, but you are a little bit the carrier of the vision. So you have to make sure that people from your working, they are understanding that vision and they are working with you towards that vision. And it's very important to find those people. But the other thing also, the most challenging part also is the political aspect of it. Yeah, because I found out that there is a lot of politics. And of course, even at school administrators, you know that, you have to be some kind of politician. So
This is
it's very
so
important.
true.
It has to be some kind. So and it becomes even more complicated when you're trying to go into a territory, like I'm going into Baltimore County and trying to create a school. So there is even a bigger level of politics involved. So you have to know how do you navigate the different interests, uh, of people there. How do you make sure that you are winning, you know, uh, the approval to the project? And that's it's very critical. And the last part also, and that's maybe where it's one of the challenge for us is the community. How do you bring that community into that project? And that's the work that is really ongoing because those are it's not that easy to do that. But of course, we know the challenge of the most difficult part is the financial part. Is the financial part. How do you get the funding? Because
Yes.
even though we are a charter school, a public charter school, meaning that our primary source of funding is the per pupil. As a
Hmm.
charter school, we made a commitment to bring quality education, to bring innovation. So in order to do that, we have to have more than what the county gives us as funding. We have to
Yeah.
be able to get more than that. And really, that is really where it is. We have to be creative. We have to be innovative.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow. I love that. Now, how do you approach issues of diversity, equity, and justice within your educational institutions?
Yes, it's a tough topic today. I don't know. You're asking that question, right? I was I just remove it on my website because we have a federal grant, so
Yeah. Yeah.
it's sad, but it's the reality.
Yeah.
And I think what I know is that we have to acknowledge that we have a diversity of interests, we have a diversity of students, diversity, cultural diversity, linguistic diversity, physical diversity in terms of abilities, cognitive abilities. And as educator, no matter what is being said, no matter what the law, no matter what the decision that being taken, those different needs have to be met. So whether you have it on your website written or not, whether you have to meet those needs.
And it
That's the
is
reality.
a very challenging time,
Yeah.
the climate that we're living currently, where now school districts, schools, have just been warned to not have those diversity, equity, and inclusion, or don't get federal funding. So it is very difficult. I was on another podcast a few days ago, and one of my colleagues, Principal Broussard, I'll shout her out. She said, it's not DEI, it's HDL. And she said it was human decency and love. And I absolutely
Yes, it
love
is.
that.
Yeah. We
I
have to, yeah, that's good.
absolutely love that. So regardless what you call it,
Yeah,
regardless what you call it, we have a duty to be
yeah,
inclusive. We have a duty to lead with empathy, to lead with love.
exactly.
And so we may not be able to call it diversity, equity, inclusion,
Yeah.
but that does not mean the practice
It's going to
that
stop.
we know needs to
Yeah,
continue is going to stop.
yeah,
Exactly. So
yeah.
thank you for your transparency for that. Now, how does your work, and you mentioned that, you have a book, how does your work as an author really influence your educational philosophy?
I don't know if that the work as all. I think it's my philosophy that inspired me to write, maybe more than
Okay.
also.
I love
Yeah,
it. Yes.
because I I remember at the beginning when we were talking about the journalism, and then I mentioned that I'm also more on the critical side.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm more of a critical person. So I'm more of somebody who likes to put things into question. And so I love reading critical books, like things like the kites, things like that. I like to the power, things like that,
Yes.
those kind of books, the white thought, things like that. So I like those kind of books that really put into question how power works,
Hmm.
how domination works, and that's really where I take my inspiration. Because that, not that I'm best at it, but I understand it. So I believe that one of the ways to empower people is to make them understand who they are, love who they are,
Yes.
understand that they have the power to do something, and that the most actually and the most important tool that they have is knowledge, is their mindset, the way they think. Because if they can change the way they think, then they can change many aspects of their life. So that's
Absolutely.
really that's how I see things. Yes.
So, what legacy do you hope to leave for future generations of students and educators?
Hopefully, I'm going to write more books that's going to be able to share all my knowledge around the topics we discussed about whether it's language immersion, whether it's the understanding power, how to the importance of education, of knowledge, understanding the importance of understanding your own history, things like that. That's really those are the areas where I hope I'll be able to make more contributions. But also, I really want to make sure that, and this is the personal challenge for me now that I'm embarking into creating schools, to make sure that I create a networks of bilingual schools, at least 5 schools that
Hmm.
are really successful. Yeah,
I
that's
love
really
it.
my goal. I don't know how long it's going to take me to get there, but I really want to make sure that I create a network of at least 5 schools that are extremely
Yes.
successful.
Oh, I
Mhm.
love it. Now, what advice would you give to aspiring Black male educators or those interested in educational leadership?
Yes, you have to be humble. Humility is very, very important. Because I think that for me particularly, I always approach when I have conversation with the staff members or my team that I don't know. They know more than I know. Because I truly believe that when you're a leader and you really empower your team, you are the winner. So you are the ultimate winner because at the end, when it's well done, they're talking about your school, about you. So and that's one number one. But also in general, I think that uh, we have to be courageous. Yes, that's because it is not easy. It is not easy at all. You have to be courageous and resilient because there's always going to be little obstacles, sometimes intentional, sometimes systemic, sometimes personal, and you have to overcome, and we can overcome them. So that's what I'm saying. Courage and resiliency is very important in order to be a great male leader.
I love it. Courage and resiliency. I love it. I love it. Now, Dr. Truman, your chapter in Champions of Change is entitled From Immigrant Journalist to School Founder, a Story of Transformation. What are some key takeaways you want readers to walk away with after reading your chapter?
Yes, number one is that, and it can be a cliche, but in my case, I would say it's possible, is that you can become what you want to become. So it's on you to make that decision. Because when I was leaving Cameroon about 20 years ago to come here as a journalist, I never thought about becoming even a teacher. So it means that once you can become whatever you want if you put your mind, you put the work, and you put your commitment into it. But I also want people to understand that you have to have an open mind. And this is very important because if not, you're going to believe that you cannot do certain things. You're going to believe that certain things are impossible for you. So, but if you have an open mind and you are willing to take the risk, then you can achieve certain things that you were never even thinking you can do. So, and those are the kind of transformation that I made all along my life. And as I said, also be very curious. And in order to be curious, it means that you have to be constantly either observing, listening, reading. And when I'm saying reading, like in reading, as I say, critically good books, because there are books, there are different kind of books, be reading to be reading and good books and listening, trying to understand your environment, because that's also very important. We are living in a very complicated time. It's very important to understand how to navigate your environment, how to negotiate your relationship with people so that you can be successful.
Absolutely amazing. I just want to thank you for being my guest on Champions of Change podcast and for contributing to the book collaboration. How can viewers and listeners connect with you?
Uh, yes, I don't know. I don't do podcasts. I don't do all the. I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn, and so if they search my name on Facebook or LinkedIn, they will probably find me. And I think we've since I've been around, I wrote a couple of articles and things like that. So it's easy to find me even on Google now. So I'm responding to emails. So if you send me a message to LinkedIn or Facebook, I will definitely respond. That those are the easiest way to find me.
That's all for today's episode of the Champions of Change podcast, where we celebrate the powerful voices and impactful work of Black male educators making a positive difference in our schools. Their dedication not only shapes young minds, but also inspires entire communities. If their stories moved you, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with others who need to hear it. Let's keep uplifting these champions and supporting the change they're leading in education. Until next time, keep learning, keep leading, and keep championing change. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you for joining the Champions of Change podcast. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join us for a new episode every Tuesday, wherever you listen to your podcast.